Hello, welcome to Juniper Level Botanic Garden, the home of Delights Nursery. I'm standing in front of a spectacular iris. This is one of the modern Sudatada Iris, and I'll explain that name in a minute. This cultivar, and most of them are of Japanese breeding, so this one is Byakuya no Kumi. Sorry, I don't know what that means. I'd love to, but I just don't know. The Sudatada Iris are hybrids between Iris pseudacorus, so that contributes the pseud part of the the specific epithet, and ensata, the Japanese iris. So these are hybrids between the European yellow-flowered water iris, which is a beautiful thing, but not a plant to plant in this country, because if the seed gets into a wild pond, they'll seed around the entire perimeter of the pond. The Japanese iris, they are perfectly behaved garden plants, but when you cross the two of them, you end up with these beautiful sterile hybrids that come in many different colors, and you don't have the seeding of the Iris pseudacorus. They are commonly referred to as eyelash iris because of the beautiful markings on the falls of the iris. These little, very delicate sort of tracery that extends into the petal. There are a number of selections that are white. With the yellow water iris, as you would imagine, there's some really good yellows, and also violets, because the Japanese iris can be white, pink, blue violet, or violet or red violet, so they contribute a wide range of colors. There is a white form of the European water iris, and I suspect to produce one of these white hybrids, the breeder probably used a white Iris pseudacorus. This is a fairly typical height. Some cultivars are half this height, a few are taller. They are generally late blooming. Siberian iris and Louisiana iris and bearded iris are basically done by the time these start. With their Japanese iris blood, they are generally late in the main iris season. There are a few selections of Sudatada iris that are already done. There's others that haven't even started. I see a clump of one across the path here that is only showing color on 2 buds. So that is a really nice feature, that they sort of extend the bloom period of iris in the garden. Another interesting characteristic of many of these hybrids is that the new foliage is this beautiful lemon yellow, becoming greener as the season goes on. So it's sort of a second color event in the garden from these hybrids. This was planted as a number of clumps. The clumps get wider in time, but I wouldn't consider them a spreading iris like Louisiana iris. They're just a vigorous clump forming iris. I can tell you when these were planted. They were planted in 2010, so they are now 15 years old. Probably coming out of they were probably bought from a mail order nursery that sells bare root plants. They generally, this range of hybrids have only been developed in the last several decades, and they generally have this very simple, elegant form. They still look like iris. I'm sure in the near future people will be making double-flowered ones and ones with curly petals, and they will no longer look like iris, but will look like wads of toilet paper up on the tops of the stalk. So I'm going to collect these old ones while we can still get them and have flowers that are so beautiful in the garden. Both parents are wet site plants that love a wet site but do equally well in average garden moisture. I would not plant them in a dry spot. But you know, if daylilies are happy, then it's wet enough for these. But they will also, if you have a spot that's too wet for most garden plants, they would be even happier. So let's maybe meet a couple other cultivars so you can see the color range in them. This is a very different selection of Sudatada Iris. This is Yarai, Y-A-R-A-I, which is Japanese for, I forget whether it's morning thunder or night thunder. See, they start off this wonderful sort of bronzed yellow and become lighter as the flowers age. You're more than worth it for me to take the time to clean up the spent flowers, but the hours are short today. This is a real beauty. This is the cultivar Sheriyukiu. You know, a really lovely lavender color. Here the eyelashes are almost a black purple in the falls, the great big yellow blaze. And it's just starting to bloom. Yarai is an early bloomer, or fairly early, but this one is just starting. It's a bit taller, close to 4 feet high. And this was a much bigger clump, but we sacrificed a bunch of it to produce it for you in the nursery. This is the cultivar Akamagami. When this flower is just starting to open and you see there's a pink blush to it, in the subsequent days the flowers fade to basically a cream color, but they're really pretty as they first start opening. And it's a good sized flower. They're bigger once they get fully open. There's still a slight pink blush to that one. And it's a smaller one, maybe probably about 30 inches tall. This is yet another Sudata hybrid. This is the Japanese cultivar Sato no Ogon. I know Ogon refers to yellow or gold, and you see it's a good sized flower. It's a robust plant. The ones that are growing down there are taller than they appear because this bed is sloping down to a rain garden. And it is just starting, so not in full bloom, but a real gorgeous one. And I'm glad you have met the Sudatada hybrid iris today, the eyelash iris. We sell a number of them. I expect to have more, a bigger selection in years to come. I highly recommend them. They're extending the iris season, and they're easy as can be if you have a sunny soil with at least medium moisture, or perfect plant if you have a wet garden. Thank you for your time today, and I hope to see you again in the garden.